Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from the YouTube channel Redolessence, and thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And in today's episode, we'll be taking a closer look at one of the newest releases by the company Nishane Istanbul, and this fragrance is called Vain and Naïve. So stay tuned. This fragrance was released in 2018, and the perfumer behind this fragrance is Chris Maurice, which also happens to be a pseudonym for Chris Carbonell, who is the perfumer for Xerjoff. Now, this fragrance, along with two other fragrances, were released in 2018. The other fragrance is called B612, and the third one is called Cologne. This one is part of the Le Petit Prince collection, along with B612. And Le Petit Prince is the name of a famous children's book. It's a novella that was published in 1943 by a French aristocrat, and it was kind of an allegory or a metaphor on his life and how he fled his country during the Second World War. And so basically this tells the story of a young prince, a little prince or a petite prince, who lived on an asteroid named B612, and he was constantly protecting the asteroid from various plants that would grow on the soil or on the surface of the asteroid. And he kind of wished that he had sheep that would eat the plants, and eventually he realized that they would probably also consume the thorns, and so he found that that wouldn't be a good idea. I think he referred to them as baobab. I'm talking about the plants, and that is supposed to be a metaphor for the spread of Nazism in his country, where one day this beautiful rose began to grow on the surface of the asteroid, and he started to care for the rose, but the rose would also be pretentious and it would feign sickness just to get the attention of the young prince. And so after a while he realized that he was being taken advantage of, and he wanted to leave the asteroid to travel to Earth. And so the rose, which is very anthropomorphic, begins being very apologetic, and it claims that they were both vain and naive, which is why they couldn't appreciate each other while he was on the asteroid. So basically, this is a rose-based scent. There's also raspberry in here, there's orange in here, there's benzoin. There are a lot of different ingredients, and it's put together in such a way that Chris Maurice does it best. And so I'm very excited to tell you what I think of this fragrance. Let's start things off with a quick look at the presentation. So I would like to take a moment to show you the full presentation for this fragrance. I do think it's quite nice. There's a silk flap on the right here where you can open up the box like so. You have a little envelope on the inside that usually contains a personalized note of some sort, at least mine does. And then you have this bed of silk on the inside in which the bottle rests. Really nice attention to detail. Now here's the bottle itself. It just has this plaque on the front that says Vain and Naïve, Nishane Istanbul, Extrait de Parfum, and then the cap also says Nishane in it as well. This is a Turkish-based company, and then the distribution on the atomizer is nice and wide. Let's continue with the smell. So as soon as this fragrance opens up, you are going to get a lot of rose in combination with the raspberry that's used in here. And I like that the rose comes across as rather wispy and ethereal, and it doesn't necessarily smell like a Rosa centifolia. It's not very lush. It's not overly sensual. It's not overly dense or chunky or anything like that. And it kind of lacks a lot of the components that are utilized in a lot of rose-based scents, namely rose oxide or geranium, or just rosy ingredients that are used to accent the various nuances that rose brings forth with it. The rose that's used in here, like I said, is very light, it's wispy, and I think this fragrance is a lot more about the raspberry that's used in here. So while it does contain rose, it also has a really nice touch of raspberry, which kind of adds like this soft, subtle, smooth, yet creamy, fruity nuance to the composition, which I quite like. There's patchouli in here, but it's not chunky, it's not chocolatey, it's also not bitter, and so I think it adds like this verdant underpinning to the composition. And it also has a little bit of cedarwood, but nothing is found in this scent that I could say is very characteristic of the note of cedarwood. I just think it adds this nice woodsy dimension in the base that is sort of overshadowed by the fruity and floral nuances. It should also be noted that there's a little bit of jasmine in this fragrance as well. However, it's not very indolic to my nose. That a lot of other jasmine-based scents, like maybe Alien for Women by Mugler or Alka by Xerjoff, do happen to be indolic. And considering the fact that Alkat is also composed by Chris Maurice, I was kind of expecting this one to be a little bit more raunchy, a little bit more animalic, and perhaps the only animalic note that is found in here is the note of musk in the base, which I think I do get, unlike some of the other notes that are in here, like the orange. And I think it just sort of serves to provide a fixative and to increase the endurance and the long-lasting ability of this scent. All in all, I think this is a scent that it leans fruity, it leans floral. I personally really enjoy this scent. I think this is for one who is not a fan of the typical fruity floral fragrances that you see on a lot of women's designer releases. You want something that utilizes natural ingredients, something that is put together in a bit more of a sophisticated way and in a niche way, I should say, because I don't want to suggest that designer fragrances are not put together in a sophisticated way, but this is done utilizing ingredients that you typically wouldn't find in a designer level scent. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, this is an incredibly unique scent. This is not a fragrance that I've smelled anywhere else, although the classification would allow one to pigeonhole it within a certain genre. It doesn't necessarily smell like anything else that I've tried from that genre, and the overall smell is rather pleasant. However, do note that it does contain a good bit of raspberry in here, although it's smooth, subtle, and creamy, and it also does contain jasmine and rose. And so if you're not a fan of those ingredients, then I think you should probably try B612, which has more of like a cypress note in it. Now, in terms of the longevity on this one, very good. I got about 7 to 8 hours, which I think would fall in the average realm for a fragrance of this concentration. In terms of the projection, it projected really well on my skin for the first hour and a half to 2 hours, and then it started to sit a little bit closer to the skin, but it really didn't become a skin scent up until like the 6-hour mark. So the performance on this one is good by my standards and according to the standards of the concentration. Now, in terms of the versatility on this one, I do think that it's compromised a little bit in the regard that I wouldn't wear it when the weather is super cold outside. So this one to me conveys spring and summer, and this is one that I could also wear dressed up as well as casually, as long as the price point is within reasonable means, as long as you can afford it, that is. And I think this one is perfectly unisex, can be worn by either men or women. In terms of the presentation, I do enjoy the presentation. I like the bottle. I like the design of the cap. I like the plaque on the front. I love the silk bed in which it rests. And I also like the name and the inspiration behind it. And my final verdict for this one is I think it's a solid scent. If you are a fan of rosy, creamy, fruity types of fragrances, if you're a gentleman who is not afraid to wear something that is a little bit on the floral side without smelling overtly feminine, I think had the jasmine bit a bit more concentrated, or had it ventured into indolic territory, that could have compromised the masculine nature of the fragrance. But all in all, I think it's a very wearable, very versatile, rosy, raspberry, musky kind of a scent that conveys a fruity and floral persona. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. That was my review of Vain and Naïve by Nishane Istanbul. And also, if you are new to this channel, if you did take something of value from this video, I would really appreciate your subscription. All you have to do is click the red subscribe button in the corner. In this way, whenever I do upload future fragrance-related content, it will get delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads or having to type in my name or anything like that. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.